The quantum engineering lab hummed with the sound of anti-gravity stabilizers as students from across the Galactic Coalition filed in for their practical examination. Issa adjusted his breathing apparatus, the humid atmosphere of Station Kepler 7 always making his lungs work harder than necessary. Around him, beings of a dozen different species muttered in their native tongues, manipulating holographic schematics with appendages ranging from tentacles to crystalline protrusions. "Make way for the Lightworlder," came a mocking voice behind him. Issa didn't need to turn around to recognize the speaker. Vexler, a graviton from the high-density world of Crushpoint Prime, stood nearly 8 feet tall even in the station's standard 1G environment. His exoskeleton gleamed under the laboratory lights, each segment reinforced with biometallic plating that could withstand pressures that would liquefy most organic matter. "I still don't understand why they allow humans in advanced engineering courses," Vexler continued, his mandibles clicking in what passed for graviton laughter. "Your people evolved on a world with barely enough gravity to hold an atmosphere? How can you possibly handle the stress loads required for this examination?" Several other students chittered and hummed in agreement. Aliana, a Zephyrian whose translucent wings caught the light like oil on water, floated past Issa's workstation. Unlike the others, her expression held something closer to concern than contempt. "Don't let them get to you," she whispered, her voice like wind chimes. Professor Karn designed this test to challenge everyone equally. Issa managed a small smile. "Thanks, Aliana, but I'm not worried." The laboratory doors sealed with a pneumatic hiss as Professor Karn entered. The elderly Zenthari moved on 6 legs, his chitinous body bearing the scars of decades spent in the most hostile environments known to Coalition space. He had taught 3 generations of engineers, and his standards were legendary. "Students," Karn's translator rendered his clicking speech into Coalition standard. "Today's examination is simple. Before each of you is a Type 7 fusion core housing unit. These units weigh approximately 400 kilograms in standard gravity and are essential components of every deep spaceful. Your task is to diagnose the malfunction in your assigned unit, repair it, and demonstrate that your repair is sound by moving the unit to the diagnostic platform." Vexler's laughter boomed across the lab. 400 kilograms? That's barely a warm-up weight for a graviton hatchling. Professor Karn's multifaceted eyes turned toward the large student. "Perhaps, Vexler. But remember that this station maintains only one standard G or homeworld's gravity is irrelevant here." The practical began, and the laboratory filled with the sounds of tools against metal, diagnostic scanners beeping and frustrated mutters in a dozen languages. Issa approached his workstation methodically. The fusion core housing was a masterwork of engineering, its surface covered in access panels, cooling vents, and monitoring ports. He ran his portable scanner across its surface, analyzing the energy signatures 30 minutes into the exam. Vexler had already declared his diagnosis to the entire room. Clearly a misalignment in the magnetic containment array. Simple fix for anyone with proper strength and precision. Aliana worked silently at the station beside Issa, her delicate appendages making minute adjustments to her unit's internal components. She caught his eye and offered an encouraging nod. Issa had found the problem within the first 20 minutes, but repairs were delicate. A microscopic fracture in one of the plasma conduits had caused a cascade of pressure imbalances throughout the system. He carefully extracted the damaged section, replaced it with a new conduit from the parts bin, and recalibrated the entire network. By the time he sealed the final access panel, he was one of the last students still working. "Time to demonstrate your repairs," Professor Karn announced. "Move your units to the diagnostic platforms." Across the lab, students employed various methods to transport their 400-kilogram burdens. Vexler simply gripped his unit and lifted it overhead with minimal effort, his graviton physiology making the weight seem trivial. Others used anti-grav dollies, mechanical lifters, or team assistance from lab drones. When Vexler noticed Issa standing before his completed unit, still analyzing it, the graviton couldn't resist one final jab. "What's wrong, Lightworlder? Did you forget that your pathetic muscles can't handle real weight? Should Professor Karn call for assistance? Perhaps a cargo drone can help you? The laughter that followed echoed off the laboratory walls. Even some of the more sympathetic students smiled at the remark. Eliana looked like she wanted to say something but held back. Isa took a deep breath. Then another. He bent his knees, positioned his hands under the fusion core housing's designated grip points, and lifted. The laughter died. The 400-kilogram unit rose smoothly from the workstation. But Isa didn't stop there. Instead of simply carrying it the required 5 meters to the diagnostic platform, he lifted it higher, pressing it overhead with arms fully extended. His face showed strain, yes, but also something else, a fierce determination that silenced every voice in the room. But the demonstration wasn't over. As the class watched in stunned silence, Isa's grip shifted. With a motion that seemed impossible for someone of his size, he maneuvered the entire unit onto one shoulder, holding it steady for 3 heartbeats before finally walking it to the diagnostic platform and setting it down with barely a sound. Professor Karn's translator remained silent for a long moment. Then, in a tone Isa had never heard from the professor, he said, "Remarkable. Class, you have just witnessed something that your xenobiology courses should have taught you, but clearly did not fully impress upon you. Humans evolved on Earth, a world with what they consider light gravity. But that gravity is still sufficient to forge a species with incredible muscle efficiency and bone density relative to their mass." The professor moved closer to Isa's workstation. Furthermore, humans possess an unusual trait among sapient species. Their adrenal systems can, under stress, temporarily suppress pain signals and allow them to access nearly 100% of their muscular capacity. Most species are naturally limited to 60 or 70% to prevent self-injury. Humans simply override this safety mechanism. Vexler's mandibles hung open. Around the lab, students who had mocked the Lightworlder now studied him with new eyes, some with respect, others with something approaching fear. Eliana floated closer, her wings shimmering. "That was incredible, Isa. I knew they underestimated you." Isa rubbed his shoulders, already feeling the price he'd pay tomorrow for showing off. But as he looked at the stunned faces of his classmates, he couldn't help but smile. "On Earth," he said quietly, "we have a saying. Born in the light, forged in the weight, our world may seem gentle to you, but it made us strong enough for any challenge in the galaxy." Professor Karn's multifaceted eyes gleamed with what might have been approval. "All units are now ready for diagnostic evaluation. And, class, perhaps you will think twice before judging any species by the gravity of their homeworld. Dismissed." As the students filed out, Vexler approached Isa's station. For a moment, the two locked eyes. Then, slowly, the graviton extended a massive hand. "I underestimated you, human. It won't happen again." Isa shook the offered hand, feeling the crushing strength that Vexler was carefully restraining. "No hard feelings. We all learn something new every day." Outside the laboratory, Aliana caught up with him in the corridor. "You know you'll be a legend by tomorrow morning, right? The human who outlifted a graviton?" Isa laughed, the sound echoing off the station's metal walls. "Good, maybe next time they'll spend less time laughing and more time studying." As they walked toward the dormitory sector, neither of them noticed Professor Karn watching from the laboratory doorway, his ancient eyes reflecting a satisfaction that came from teaching a lesson no textbook could convey. In the vast complexity of the galaxy, where thousands of species competed and collaborated among the stars, humanity had earned its place not through technology alone, but through the indomitable spirit that evolution had carved into their very bones, and sometimes that spirit needed only a 400-kilogram fusion core housing to prove itself to those who doubted.